I could cut in this way, but I chose to cut in this way, which was dumb. I'd be better off going this way, because cutting in this way, I'm cutting into the end grain. The grain's running this way, and I'm shoving my tool straight into the grain. If I would cut this direction, I would be cutting across the grain instead of into the end of my grain. So that's what I'll do. I can't finish the tendon with this. My tendons have a dovetail, so I have to have a dovetail mark on it. So a dovetail fitting, so I'm going to cut it out with a bowl gouge, I mean a spindle gouge. There. See a dovetail on there now? I could make that a little smaller. I'm going to. Oh yeah, I'm away from my line. The closer you can get to having your chuck jaws closed, the more secure hold you have when you put things in a chuck. So we're not close enough. You can make go, no-go gauges for your chucks to make them the size of your chuck so that you don't have to use a caliper. You just have something the size of your jaws closed for when you're grabbing, or the size when you're opening. So, hey man, I've got a dovetail on there now, and we're going to put the chuck on. And I'm not going to forget the knockout bar in the headstock this time. Guys having fun yet? Also, make sure this part of your wood doesn't bottom out in your chuck. You want it on air. What you want to bottom out is the top of your chuck to this edge right here, to this edge. Okay? That's how you get the securest grip. And I had center here from when I turned it originally, so that center should still be good. Yeah, it'll become apparent in a little bit. You'll see. In fact, I am going to start between centers. Why change the chuck? Because when I try to turn this little thing here, I can't turn that between centers so well. And I get my tool rest as close to the work as I can. And I'm going to just make real fast cuts and try to knock off a bunch of wood down here for the sake of time. Probably won't say too much. Unless you want to learn something about skews, I can make some more comments, but like I could clean up this edge here. I would, with the skew, it's great at cutting across grain here. That is smooth as glass right there. You don't even need to sand that. So that's another cut skews are good at. But we're not doing a skew demonstration. So I need to be leery about here. So I need to cut it. I got another piece right here too. So I just want to make sure I don't get too small, but I got loads of room to go. This is called the planing cut. Anybody with a planer will know why. Usually you use a skew across like this. But skews give you a finish like glass. That I would start sanding that right there with 320 or 400, and it'd be fine. There's no tear out. I wouldn't be able to do it if I went slow, though. I wouldn't get that kind of finish. In fact, here, for people who are afraid to turn over like 1200, this is 1200. It's like, you can do it, but you have to go real slow, and it's just harder to control. I don't know, the camera probably won't show. This is smoother than that, and I've got some ridges and stuff here. And going fast, it cuts like butter. So, but what I have to do is start looking at my ornament that I'm going to try to copy. Wonder if that would stay there or not. I got a big flat part on my lathe right there where I set things, right there. And then I just glance there, and make some... Oh, there's a big flat part. How'd that happen? Mine's round here and my flat part's there. All right. Oh, I'm getting silly. I'm going to take down just a little bit, and then we're going to move the tailstock away because we're going to start forming that. So I like to leave the tailstock there as long as I can because you can cut faster and put a lot more pressure when it's supported on both ends. I wouldn't be able to take that wood away nearly that fast if the tailstock wasn't there. I don't want to get too much of my wood taken away up here because it won't give enough support out here if I do, and I'll get too much vibration. I'm just trying to get rid of the wood here. I'll come back from this side here. I'm going to use a little skew just again to knock away the wood while it's still between centers. That's about as far as I can go between centers, because I want to finish this, and as I move this way, you don't want to go back to the end because there's no support and there's not a lot of wood. As you take more wood off out here, there's less wood supporting this, and it will vibrate and it's harder to turn. And I always like to take these out when I'm not using them because I've bammed my... It hurts. Those are sharp. Okay, I'm going to start slower. See, whoop! I'll move my tool rest in. Now I got the the tailstock out of the way. I can get my tool rest a lot closer. Okay, we're gonna. I had just a little knob on the end there. Okay, we're going to make a little bead there. I can bead with a skew. It's kind of hard, so we'll try to make it with a spindle gouge instead. It's a little easier. And my tool rest is too high, way above the work. I like having it higher when using a skew. That's the only tool I use above center because of the way you use it. When I'm using spindle gouges and bowl gouges, your tool rest is at center or slightly below. A lot of times slightly below is so that when you get to center, your cutting point is right on center, but see the tool rest is slightly below. And actually, to be right on center here, my hand is a little higher than I like, so if I lower the tool rest some, I can be this way to get to center, and that's what I'm going to do. Lower it just a little. So now it's real comfortable to be at center. Everybody see that? No. Guess the camera's in the wrong spot. So I'm going to start at where I want the center of my bead to be. And I've got my tool straight up, and I'm going to roll it this way, and I'm going to roll it the other way to cut my bead. So you'll see my hand is going to do like this. It isn't just turning it. I'm going to be rolling this way and rolling that way. So right now, I'm riding the bevel. I'm getting no cuts. I'm going to slide the tool down. I was riding the bevel here. I'm going to get the business end of this skew, or whatever you call this. Just starting to get some cuts, and then I'm going to roll it. This is really so, this little ball here is really so tiny that I'm not good enough to do it all in one motion, so. Hear the vibration at the end? That's pretty close to being round there. I would just finish it off with, let's see, 320 will be plenty. A little slow speed here. Yeah, now it's perfectly round, that's all it took. So we're going to take some more wood out of here and try to make this little flame kind of design. How am I doing on time? It's 8:30. What time do you stop? 9? Okay. I think I'm going to get there. I hope. I'm going to try to make 2 cuts, one good and one not. Not. Not so good. Okay? This is a much better cut. I don't know if you can hear the difference, but this is really smooth. You can take a lot of wood off and still be smooth. I'm really rolling my whole body around here. So I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't move my hands at all. I just kind of slid my body around in that curve. And that gives you really fine, no tear out, just a nice slope there. So that slope is probably all right. And then I'm going to round back on the other side. Actually, it's not exactly all right. I need the angle here a little bit more pronounced right here to kind of match the back side of it. Okay, that's taking shape. You can do a cleanup cut with a skew too on there. When it's this thin, you begin to support it with your hand on the back side. So I was having trouble because I didn't raise my tool rest again. I said when I use the skew, I raise it. It'll be easier up here. Get it down to paper clip size, or toothpick size. This is where I like to have the ornament I'm working on right there. Can I just glance up and kind of compare notes? And I'm rolling my tool here to get into that little pointy area there. I want to take it down a little more too, get it so it's more fine. Instead of big and clunky, you want it slender and fine. I want to see what you're seeing. Okay, you are looking from the top. I really can't go any further in because the wings here are touching here. See, I'm almost at the angle of my tool, so I can't cut any deeper with that tool. There's just no room. So to get further, I've got this little pointy tool like this. It's called a vortex tool. I got this hunk of metal for it. So it's a Vossler Drozda. But with this, I can get on in there and take it to a really tiny point. I got carried away with myself there. Actually, that's too small. It doesn't look right. So it's lost proportion. This would be a junk ornament. If I wasn't trying to hurry, because I'm almost down to this angle here, and this is, I think this is too big and bulky compared to that. It might turn out all right, but we need to sand this now because we can't go back there. As I cut more wood away, there's no way to get back there. I don't want to waste a lot of your time sanding, but maybe I'll donate this to the club for your next win one, turn one or something. So we'll want it to be at least somewhat finished. How's that? And of course I sand at a lot slower speed than I cut at. My little ball at the end's already done, so I'm not sanding that. I don't really have any tear out here. I'm just kind of sanding off any little bump. Bumps are easy to tear off because, or sand off because you're only sanding off the top of the bump. Where tear out, have to sand all the wood away down to the tear out. And so sanding away 99% more wood. I could speed that up a little actually. Alright, that's enough of the 220. Go to 320 and we'll stop at 400 for this. The progressive grits, you can sand even less. It doesn't take long to sand on the finer grit, as long as you've gotten it right with the all your marks out with the heavier grits. The fine grits go fast. Okay, that part of the ornament's done. Actually cutting around the open spots, this stuff, that's the, and you'll notice too, it's tapered in here too. I wanted it, and the way you'll notice this is thinner here than it is here. Well, when it gets thinner here, it's thinner here also. That's what happens when you're doing these types of ornaments. So that's how you control what you're looking at. All right, I got to take a little. I'm having brain problems. I can't think of the cove out of there. Notice I go this way in the back, kind of work, and I start towards the center. I don't start right here where I want my final cut. I start in the center and work towards my final cut. You can see there's not a lot of wood there supporting my bevel. If I hadn't cut away the wood here already, if I would just try to take a big cut right there, it would push back against the bevel and would tear out that fine wood here. So you got to get the stuff in front of it away and then take real fine cuts at the end. Okay? Getting close to the end here. I think that might be the end. Again, no tear out. Of course, I'm cutting completely round. The tear out comes more when you're cutting air. This is completely round thus far. When I get to this, that's where tool control comes into play a little bit more. And I'm getting close to there. I got to work my way there. If I'd make this thin first, I could never go back and do this. And we'll give that just a little bit of sanding now and move on to the next step. Let's start with 220. There's 220, 320, and 400. Perfect. Okay, we're going to take some more off the top here and work ourselves into this last little hump point, whatever we call it. And I'm running wide open. It won't go any faster. 3,300. Let's see how that's looking. Yeah, see, I'm getting a cutting air here. I'm not going to want this too much thinner. You see, it's getting thinner here. I got to take more out of here. So I need to cut from here down. So you got to stop and look and see what how your work's progressing. Okay, we're getting the shape out of here. Yeah, and see, this is still a little thinner here than here, so we need to take a little bit more out of there, but it's starting to look nicer. I'm probably actually going to want to take it down this right into the bottom of my cove there. Do you still call it a cove if it's straight, or is it only a cove if it's like this?
I call it a cove whether it's
Straighter. Okay. Okay, that's looking better. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it is looking better, eh? So I'm actually gonna... Here?
Well, yeah, if you turn it flat here, it looks like it sort of curves down and then...
Yeah, I have to take more off here. It's getting better though. What I'm looking at is two things. Of course, I'm looking at what I'm cutting, but at this point, I can see through the ornament. You can see straight through. And where the shadow is, it's fatter here and thinner here, which is what you want it to do, because this is fatter here and thinner here. And as it goes thinner here, it goes thinner there too, which this should have done, and it's starting to do that, see? And this is the trailing edge, and there's no tear out there, so that's good. If I would shove my tool into it with a lot of force, I'd get tear out off the back. Or if I wasn't riding the bevel just right. You should just hear a smooth, or I can't make the noise, but that, it should just sound like that. It shouldn't sound like this. Well, like that. What I'm doing here is I'm finding my bevel. Right now it's not cutting. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm just riding the bevel. So I find it here, and then I just lift my handle up until I start getting an actual cut. Now it's cutting. It's real fine. You might not even hardly be able to see it, but that gives you some fine cleanup cuts. And come back in from this side. Right down in there. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, see, it's just tapered the whole way. And I think that's the look I want. I'm not going to take any more out of there. And now I've got this hump here. It goes, tapers nice, and then humps up, so I have to take wood off here to get rid of that. So I'm going to start cutting back the other direction. It's good to be ambidextrous to work both ways, too. Just take off some wood here. What I'm actually looking at, I'm trying to cut so that I kind of follow this pattern here. I'm looking at the inside, my inside shape, which I can see there. So that I'm trying to mimic the line. So I'm starting to get it rounded out here. I'll keep taking wood off down into here. But right here is where I've got that hump, so that's where I gotta take some of that off right there. We'll take a couple more cuts this direction. Because I don't want to cut uphill. Getting closer, I think. Gentlemen and ladies. I'm approaching the shape I want. Once I get it real near, I'll try to take a whole cut from both sides. So I'm looking through, I see it's very thin here and it just progressively gets thicker. The inside. Notice the tool handle's against my body. And I'm moving my body. My body can't make quick, jerky motions. Your arms can do this, your body can't. So when I'm doing this, I'm not going to get any of that jerkiness in my cut. And we're getting closer to being right on spot on here. I got to take some off, a few more cuts off this direction, and the body of the inside out will be done. One of the things I did wrong when I first started doing these inside-out ornaments is I tried to go around the corner by pushing it in that direction, and it just doesn't work. You got to steer it in that direction. So you got to move the tool and you got to get your point in the direction you want it to go. I don't know how many years it took of me thinking I got to go that way, so I'm pushing it that way. It doesn't work. You got to turn your body into it. And that, my friends, is a nice angle. That is good. So we'll do a little bit of sanding on that, and we'll bang off the top. Now you can see why I've got it in the chuck. The best way to sand this part is this direction, like this. And that's the direction of the grain too. Back and forth a little bit. There's not too many tool marks in here. I don't know if any of it's showing up on the video. There, that side's done.
If all goes reasonably well, how long does it take you to make one of these?
Inside-out turning is cumbersome and time-consuming because of the gluing, the cutting, measuring. It's not for people who like to bang out a bowl quickly. Mind you, I like to bang out bowls quickly and do so a lot of times, but it takes a fair amount of time longer. Well, how long does it take me? You're going to see me do a whole ornament except for a few of the glue ups and waiting for the glue to dry. So the business end of actually doing the cutting, the gluing and stuff, that's how long it takes. Although I could probably speed it up a little if I wasn't stopping and talking and, you know. So what are we going to have, an hour and a half into this thing? Hour and 45, yeah, because we're not done, so. So I know your time's worth about $350 an hour or so, so this ornament would have to sell for $400. This part I can sand with the lathe on because it's round. I'm not cutting over air. See, if I try to do that part, it doesn't work so well. And actually what happens when I do there is I sand a lot right here as it hits, and then I miss the rear end, and then I hit here again. So it turns your ornament into a funny shaped thing. It's not symmetrical. So yeah, you would. You would, but you'd still sand the edges more than the center part, even if you went both directions. So it's just better off to do the center part with it stopped. Well, we need to speed up. I mean, it'll be a pretty good ornament for whoever gets it. Not sanded as much as I would sand it if I was going to sell it. We're almost home. Got just a couple more cuts. Okay, I got to put another bead, pointy bead in the cove in a round circle, and we'll be done. You can pretty much make a whole ornament with one sharp tool without stopping to sharpen, but I brought along a bunch of them to make sure that if one of them did go dull, I'd have another. You really need sharp tools if you want to avoid tear out on your trailing edge. If your tool's not sharp, you cannot do it. So the two things for doing when you're cutting air like that, sharp tools, three things: sharp tools, good tool control, don't shove your tool in, light cuts, and high speed. Nothing beats stopping and looking when it's not on. I go back and forth. Got to take that down a good deal more. Both sides. Taking my final cut, going slower, and taking my time. And we'll come back and take some more off the top here. See how I move my body? Tools planted against my arm. All I gotta do is roll the ball on the top now and I'm pretty much done. I start in the center, I'm just riding the bevel here. I'm going to pull my tool down until I start just starting to cut just now, and then I'm going to roll it this direction. And I'm going to roll it that direction. I'm going to do it again, roll it this direction. And then roll it back that direction. Who needs a sphere jig? Getting there. Actually, cutting circles is a rather difficult thing to do, to get both sides matching even. Freehanding circles anyways. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of sanding and then we'll be able to part that off. And we'll have a done ornament. We're almost there, folks. Almost there. You guys have been quiet. That first ornament I turned with all the tear out, I had a lathe that didn't even have bearings. It had brass bushings. And so needless to say, I wasn't turning very fast. But I didn't have the confidence to turn fast either. I think I was using what appeared to be, or what really was more or less a scraper rather than a cutting with a gouge. Yeah, this part sands a whole lot easier than sanding over the air, which you have to turn off the lathe and do by hand. And we're coming into the home stretch. Any questions about this? When you all get to be experts, we'll do a 3 or 6-parter. show you when to put the tendon in, to put the little ornament or Christmas tree or snowman inside it. There's only so much you can do in an hour and a half though. I think we've moved along pretty quickly. Okay, I would have sanded this back and forth by hand just a little bit more because I see a few little bitty bumps in it. There's not tear outs, but just bumps that I would have sanded smoother. But these portions are nice. So the only thing now we have to do is turn the top off. And what I will do is I'll take some cuts more off here, moving towards the tailstock, and I'm going to work from both directions, back and forth, and I have to make sure I have a cleared assurance, cleared room here to get my gouge in when I'm going to part it off. And I'm not going to try to part it off completely round because at the end it's going to want to flop off and I'll get a little bit of tear out right there. So I'm going to part it off in a little bit. It's going to be round with a little bit of tiny, like dunce cap on the top. Because that little bit you can sand off with a piece of sandpaper really easy. Good. I need a tool rest, I'll bet. And I always say spin it all the way around, you know, to make sure it's not hitting. I already know it's round though, so if it's not hitting here, it's not going to hit elsewhere. That's more important when you're roughing it, starting it. Okay, I'm giving myself some clearance here, just getting some wood out of the way. And my gouge is actually not as sharp as I would like. I'd be sharpening it right now if I wasn't done. Or I could switch to another gouge that's already sharp. See, this is scraping here. I'm scraping with the bottom wing here. And that's a fine cut. I mean, you can use it. A lot of people use it for bowls and everything. If you did that over the open area, you'd be dragging grain off the back edge. So you don't want to do that there. I was going to stop. I was going to say that's the last cut, but yeah, it was. I don't think it. I think it'll still be fine. Yeah, that's more sanding than I'd like to do, but you can still sand that off. But I would start with 150 to 180, something like that, to do that and just. See, it's coming off pretty fast. There's not a lot there.
Did you put the finish on before you...
Sometimes. A lot of times. Well, it depends on what kind of finish. I obviously have already put the finish in here. You saw me put it in. So, again, for this kind of finish, you don't really need to worry about it drying. It soaks in and then you can kind of buff it. So, you could put it on anytime. You're asking, I guess, if it's easier to sand by putting the finish on in the lathe?
Yeah.
Is that why? Yeah, you know, I certainly do bowls and other things that way. Inside-out ornaments are a little more difficult to do that way because you really, on the lathe, you can't sand here anyways. You gotta do that by hand. So I'm going through my grits here and we'll round off the top. Any questions? This is poplar, but you can use anything you want. Although I will tell you that tighter grained woods work better than oak. Oak's a little hard. Those are oak, the candlesticks there. Oak and walnut. Walnut is a tighter grade and it works a lot better. So there's a win-win turn one, or your next raffle.